But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is Friday, the three Amigos. The perfect way to kickstart your weekend with Mitch, with Keith, with George, and with Steve. And some contributions, as always, from Burra Mag and from Andre and from Paul. Look forward to them later as we look ahead to the Manchester United game, which takes place on Sunday. And breaking news, Tom straight in that Newcastle have already announced the pre-season friendly, the first one of next season, Tuesday, the 18th of July, kick-off 7:45. Rangers away. That'll get the taste buds going for the new season, lads. Won't it?
How many points?
Stop
it.
Yeah, stop it. Okay, as always, we don't plan these shows. Newcastle United do with their 7 days of activity, and it's sometimes internal, it's sometimes external. And Newcastle's press conference today, Eddie Howe once again, Mitch, asked about the whole Saudi scenario. Once again, had to bat it off. You even had Luke Edwards at one point who staggered during the press conference to say, I've forgotten what my question is. So they had to move on to Jordan Cronin. Then when they went back to Luke, surprise, surprise, his question was about Saudi. But yeah, I mean, look, it's been this big meeting. The owners and directors test is going to change with immediate effect, or has changed with immediate effect. You know, the headline makers have had a field day, and the people who love having a dig at our club have had a field day. What did you make of all of that this week? There's been a lot of talk. Look, I know we've touched on it on other shows this week, but let's go a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, let's go in depth. It's lazy, it's sensationalist, it's an easy stick to beat with. But actually, if you start digging into the changes they've made, and if you look at other events as well, which I'll touch on a little bit, I think, just to kick off and get things rolling, and it genuinely is a non-story, and that's my opinion. But I think it's more than just my opinion. For starters, the tests are going to revolve around who's on the government list. Well, none of the countries in the Middle East are. Tell you who would have affected more, Arsenal and Everton, when they had a warmonger on their boards with money, which was sort of in terms of frozen by the UK government. I tell you what else it would have affected was Chelsea. Yeah. Gazprom. And we all know who won that. You know, and so it's a sensationalist non-story. And it's easy, it's lazy. But yet it'll be cheered by the same people who came with no real evidence, or no real backup to what they were saying. And let's wind it back a little bit. There's been something announced. Ironically, actually, the same day as the Premier League announced that changes. Here in the UAE, Sheikh Khaldun Mubarak has been announced as the new joint vice president of the UAE. Who is he? Chairman of Man City. Now, you can't get more political at a country than vice president of the country, whether it's joint vice president or not. It's actually quite an unusual move, because the position usually held solely by somebody from Dubai, and they've announced that Sheikh Khaldun Mubarak is now joint vice president with Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid from Dubai, to show as a big show of unity, and he's married to one of Sheikh Mohammed's daughters, etc., etc. But what it does do is, if we're on the table for having His Excellency Yasser Al Rumayyan on our board, they're on the table too now. And they're probably again going to do that. They're just not. Let's be realistic. And I was even chatting to some of my journalist friends over here over the last few days about how things are viewed from a human rights perspective, both with the UAE and Saudi and Qatar, because obviously we've got Man U nonsense still going on. And what I call the Benzaya group bid on steroids going on for Man United. And of all of them, the UAE comes out very well. Saudi's not too far behind. And the one that still keeps popping up in dispatches is Kappa. You know, and so we've got all of this. You can talk human rights as much as you like, but again, I keep telling you about changes I've seen in this region in the last 10 years since I've been in it, and they're massive, absolutely huge. And so far, the UK government has suddenly reverted and put all these countries on their list, which is the only way anything would be disbarred, would destroy a country who've left the EU, who are struggling to make trade elsewhere around the world, who've just joined the Asia-Pacific trading bloc without any referendum for that, by the way, but that's another matter. And so it just isn't going to happen. No matter how much people wish it would happen and want things to happen, it's not. And I think we can sit back and relax and say, well, okay, come for us. You've got to come for Man City as well. You're already going for Man City in other ways, but you cannot come for us in the same way. Because we haven't done anything that Man City have allegedly done. We're doing everything by the book and up front and cooperating and up front with you as the Premier League. Richard Masters' performance, which I'm sure we'll touch on as well, in front of that commission was quite pathetic. And basically chucked the member club under the bus a little bit, because his non-answer does only one thing: protects the Premier League. Protects the Premier League, gives enough wiggle room for the naysayers and the people who want something to happen to say, oh, there might be something happening. There's not. There just isn't. And so we're going to be sitting, hopefully pretty soon, if we can get the results over the next few weeks that we want, and we can look at where we're going to go, listening to His Excellency Yassar Murayan talking about where PIF want to be by 2030. And I've said all along, we're an intrinsic part of that. Call it sports washing if you will. I call it great investment on their behalf, because we were the value proposition. They've always seen we were the value proposition. They're not going out spending billions on a football club like Qatar are allegedly about to, but they're not, by the way. You know, it's a non-starter, but people are loving it, and I've seen certain other journalists as well. And that political leaning can't stop them from asking certain questions. And my suggestion to them would be get back to the football, because that's where everything should be concentrated on. That's all we should concentrate on. And frankly, everything else is white noise and absolute desperation on certain people's part. And that's where I sit on it. And, you know, I might be a bit blunt about it, but I'm at the point now where you can count the amount of fucks I give on Oscar Pistorius' toes. Cheers, everyone.
Keith, your views on the week's event?
If he's blunt, I'll probably be blunter, because it's the biggest pile of horse shit you're ever going to see, dredged up by lazy journalism, that you're going to see this season. And if you've got somebody going off for his Easter holidays and he works for a newspaper, he's probably got a choice of trying to bring something up that's valid to the Premier League, bring some news up, bring some article up, bring something up about England or about coaching or about some statistics, or if he's got political drive towards anti-Saudi motivations, what he could do is just dredge up an old story and bring it back to the fore. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things tonight, because I think people are playing with our fans' mental health. I think they're playing with our fans' mindset. And I think some of our fans, a lot of them have privately messages and said, "Are you worried, Keith?" And I said, "Not at all."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, if you're not, neither am I."
Keith, I've had exactly the same. I've been bombarded with them this week.
Yeah. Well, I've had some of the people that's on here tonight, and some people that I have a lot of time for, who I call regulars, who people who talk a lot of sense. And I'm going to level with you a few things. Something I've never said before, but you know, I'll put on this thing. Justin Barnes was employed by Mike Ashley as a lawyer, and he ran the case for Newcastle for the takeover. You know, yes, I'm signed up to NDAs, but I'll say to you now, the Premier League begged Newcastle not to run the cat case. So when it ran, and 33,000 broke the records and sat on and watched it, Newcastle were begged by the Premier League. They were told the Premier League would pass the takeover without the need for the cat, as long as they dropped the cat. My words were, I wouldn't tell them there's a bird's nest. I wouldn't trust these people with me granny's errand money to go down the ice cream van. These people are incessantly dodgy. That's in my personal opinion. And I'm allowed to have a personal opinion. You can't do it legally for saying anybody's dodgy. However, the club must have felt similar. That's all I'm going to say. They must have felt similar because they steadfastly refused to stop the cat case. And I said, if you stop it, they will immediately go back to majoring on an arbitration where you'll get beat 2-1. So thankfully, the club ran it. We all know what happened after that. And just to put some dates in for all these Johnny Come headbangers, the case was run on a Thursday, right? The deal for Newcastle United was signed on the Saturday. Okay, so work that out because we're not G's here. If you call Saturday a non-working day, so Thursday and Friday working days, the case ran on a Thursday. The deal was signed off by the Premier League for the takeover of Newcastle United on the Saturday. Okay, I was telling Ant and Deck on the Tuesday night that it was signed, sealed, wet and finished and done. The Saudis then realised that they wanted television in the UAE. So they went and they gave the TV rights to beIN so that the people in Saudi Arabia could watch Newcastle because they knew they'd signed for the club. They took it over. And it was and Sky Sports were jumping around on the Thursday saying, oh, well, there's things to be passed yet by the Premier League. Bag of bollocks. There was nothing to get passed because it had been signed on the Saturday morning. Okay? So all you clowns who sit there and say, you don't know what you're talking about, I saw it. I've seen it. I've worked with the people who were doing it. So I'm saying just once and for all, don't believe half the shit you read in the papers because that's what it is. And that's why it ends up as toilet paper. These people are lazy journalists who've got political motivations, who are anti-Saudi, like a lot of people who are quite prominent, trying to stop the takeover, trying to offend people on this panel, because all the people on this panel wanted unanimously was the Saudi takeover. Now, what did I want? Well, think about what it is. Newcastle Consortium Supporters Limited. So we were only after one takeover. And the only fear is that another takeover might come in. However, you need to ask yourself, why did the Premier League ask Newcastle not to run a cat case, which ran on a Thursday, and then they signed the deal off without any conditions for piracy or human rights or anything 2 days later? The reason they did is because they didn't have a leg to stand on. And the other reason is, and I think a lot of you that are on our side will say, well, they must have been shiting themselves of what was going to come out if the cat case had run. Because in the words of a KC, he said to me, he said, they cannot defend, no way they can defend 4 of the 6 points you've raised. 4 of them 6 points, smash them to pieces. And they tried to answer one, which they might have had a good answer in, and they made a complete dog's dinner of it. And Chia 1 years later drove a horse and carriage through that 1 point they tried to defend. So to me, it probably was 5 out of 6. Remember, you only have to win 1. So when you sit there and you just sit there getting ready to go to the Man United match, or you sit there and you get some stupid journalist who's quite lazy, who just thinks, I tell you what I'll do, I'll run this case. I'll get some buffoon to go on the DCMS and raise the question, are you going to look at Newcastle again? The answer is no. Because if you were brave enough to run the Newcastle case again, and Newcastle counterclaimed and said, well, we did a takeover, we did in the grounds of an uncompetitive, anti-competitive atmosphere, there's an option for Newcastle to reopen cases. So just because they didn't run a case, because they signed it off, it doesn't stop them having the option to reopen a case. And for me, with the wealth of PIF, if you've seen this week, their aim is for $3.5 trillion in our lifetime. 3.5 trillion in a week that Sunderland's iconic manager is looking after our under-9s. It'll tell you how big the gap's getting. It's got to tell you how wide it's getting. Newcastle United are the force in football, and it's choking everybody on the planet. Everybody in another club is choking to bits. They hate what's going on at Newcastle United at the minute. But what I'm concerned about is fans who have had a season ticket for 20 years, and all they want to do is see Newcastle have some degree of success. We've took the cup final on the chin. We got beat. So we'll go on Sunday. We group again. We try and beat them. We might win. We might lose. But we'll take what we get. But what's not fair is where some idiot gets paid a wage under the heading of a journalist. And he goes in and he says, oh, you need to reinvestigate Newcastle. It's a lot of it is real horseshit. And my desire, my warped desire, is that they have the balls to run and investigate Newcastle. Because I think you investigate, you're talking about investigating PIF. That's what you're talking about. It's a PIF argument. It's the status of them, their ownership, and then you're taking on their people. Now, unlimited funds, and with the evidence I've seen myself, you'll bring the Premier League down, in my humble private opinion. I think you'll smash the British cartel in football if it comes out. So I think Newcastle's the last target in the world you want to take on. And for me, all this rubbish they've put out about there's new laws about people, and people are saying, oh, does that mean Man United's take was not going to go through, or Newcastle's can be undone, or Man City's is going to get looked into? No, it's talking about a watch list that Qatar and UAE aren't even on. So if you said to me, is that going to have any impact? I would say, yeah. If Burnley come at the Premier League this year and North Korea try and buy them, that legislation might kick and have great impact. Apart from that, forget about it. They're playing with your head, and it's the same old people. It's your Dan Roans. It's the people who don't want to work. They just want to think. And I don't mind. I'm a private man. I'm not resenting anyone. You come after us, and I'll stand toe to toe with you and say, what you're doing is you're doing very, very cheap, lazy journalism, and you're playing with people's minds, and you're not even researching these things. You're digging an old case out and say, here, see if you can rattle Newcastle again. And the only pity for me is that more and more people don't understand that Richard Masters is probably playing it wise, saying, I can't comment. Because can't comment could mean, and this, I'm just saying this could mean I haven't got the balls to take Newcastle on. It could mean if I take Newcastle on, they'll expose us. It could mean you're not in your life. You think I'm mad? You think I'm drunk? No chance. But by saying what he's saying is a neutral way of giving people the impression there's probably an investigation going on. So for me, to all of you, stop worrying. Just go and scream that team on. Take it in your stride. Newcastle's not going anywhere. PIF aren't going anywhere. And the only people that are going somewhere is these clubs with $500 million and $1 billion of debt, like Man United, Spurs. They're the people that should be worrying right now.
Over to you, Steve.
I'm expecting you to get a phone call from Florentino Perez any moment now, wanting to smash the Premier League, because that's his ambition, isn't it? Because they're so desperate to do something and bring in the European Super League. No, seriously, I mean, absolutely spot on what Keith said. I mean, it's a conversation that we've been having among ourselves for God knows how long. Keith's absolutely right, and we know he is, and he knows he is. And I think the Premier League know that he is as well. Richard Masters was the master of saying nothing while uttering, what was he uttering? Made up, whatever. I watched his performance and I thought, dear me, he's gone in with an agenda of saying absolutely nothing. He was going to give anything away. He doesn't want this, he doesn't want that. It was so political in terms of how a politician would operate, because that's what it was like listening to. It was like listening to a bloke who knows he's going to sit in front of a camera and tell a pack of lies, and you're waiting for someone to come in and say, defend the indefensible, because that's almost what he was trying to do and what he tries to do. We know that Newcastle United are going nowhere. We know PAF will not be one iota scared. Anyone, and Keith will agree, anyone who heard the comments from Nick DeMarco when he was asked whether or not this would affect Newcastle United, no. And there's a man who has been wrapped up in the whole legal aspect alongside Keith for God knows how long. So when Nick DeMarco comes out as a top KC, and says, I don't think there's anything to worry about, lads. He's almost saying, as Keith would, bring it on, because if you do, it's a big packet for me, and it's a downfall of you. So yeah, that's the nature of it. Move on, guys. I know they can't move on because it's the nature of the human being in them, because the as Keith said, these journalists, they don't know. So they're clutching at a straw that they don't even have a grip of. They're desperate. They're desperate to get a story. They think there's a story out there, and there isn't a story. But they're still chasing this little bit of straw that's flying around.
Steve, they don't even know why the Takeover went through. They don't even know.
No, exactly.
They don't even know why the Premier League give in. And if you remember, the Big Six were furious with the Premier League letting it go. Can you remember the week after it went through? They had a meeting with Newcastle weren't invited to explain why they let it go through. Because the difference is the Premier League employed a big team of lawyers, massive team. So they knew exactly what they're up against. And them lawyers and them KCs for their side, well, they said, you've lost this. You can't win this argument. You're dead with these arguments. And so people on Newcastle's side, I mean, why do you think Nick DeMarco was wheeled into the cat case? He's not a cat lawyer. Yeah. Nick DeMarco is not a competition lawyer. He's disputes and resolution specialist, probably the best in the country. But he was put in there to sit and laugh at them. You know, all he did was the whole meeting. He was just sitting grinning. He just sat there, and it was like he'd done all this work behind the scenes, and it ended up in a competition case. Let us tell you, the day I went to Newcastle United, Nick DeMarco said to me, he said to Newcastle, he says, I think it's going to take what Keith's saying to break our case down, just to get this to go. And I've got that recorded. So what I'm saying to you is Nick DeMarco wasn't a cat lawyer who was sitting on the cat case. Yeah. Newcastle were playing with them, flicking their ears in the meeting. You all saw it. 33,000 you saw it. But seriously, you've got these journalists. Someone's asked a great question on the screen. They said, why do you think with the cat case is so nailed on that people are encouraging, press are encouraging the argument against Newcastle? It's simple, is if the people who wind these journalists up, i.e. the Big Six cartel, knew what they were guilty of and had the examples that we've got of what they were doing, they wouldn't be doing anything. They'd be pleased they got out of it. But those teams in the cartel, them clubs, think the Premier League let them down. Not my opinion. My opinion is the Premier League saved their bacon. The Premier League saved them going into court. And if you get found as a cartel, it's 10% of your world turnover, or as much as imprisonment. But it's not. Forget the fines. Forget how bad it is. It's if a cartel's found in English football crumbles. The whole thing. You'll have the little 14 fighting it out, and you'll have 6 clubs come up from the Championship, and they'll go to the bottom of the 4th division. If a cartel's found, it's disaster. But it isn't. Those points remain. Those points lie there. What they were doing was wholly illegal and anti-competitive. And that's from a KC to me. So I believe him, because that's what he does for a living. He's one of the top ones in the country. And he says it's illegal what they're doing. And he says you've run 6 charges. We ran 6. Given to the Premier League, got a 9-page letter answering them. We gave them to the club, and the club ran them 6 arguments. And my KC said to me, who I think still the best in the country, he said, you'll win 4, probably 5. You only have to win 1. So don't question if the cartel is nailed on. If a cartel was run, the fees for a cartel against British football, there'll be 100 million fees spent, and PIF will cough at that. PIF will wonder which petty cash to take it out of. You're talking about you're taking a £500 billion wealth trust against people who are $500 million in debt and $1 billion in debt. They wouldn't even be able to run the cases.
So are you recommending that these sports journalists start looking into competition law and finding how big the hole is that they've just dug for the top 6?
I think them journalists want to go and get some stories about Fulham come back to strength, Brighton come back to strength. Bournemouth attempts to stay up. But I think I genuinely think, I've spoken to Miguel Delaney, and I genuinely think he has a passion for the subject he talks about. I think he's passionately against Man United getting Middle East ownership. But I think the likes of Dan Rowan and them, some of the people who put on, I think they genuinely just trying to cause mischief because they love to stick one on Newcastle.
As somebody who lives in the Middle East, I can tell you, I shudder at some of the things I see on the BBC website at the minute, which are all anti-Middle Eastern, that come with very, very little factual in content, very subjective, and at times comes across as you don't know what you're talking about. So come and be here for a while. Another example this week of how the press are lazy and how they have basically a racist bias. Picture in the Daily Mail saying, Yasser Al-Rumayyan is under pressure because of new Premier League rules. And it was a picture of Maydad.
Yes.
It was a picture of Maydad. You know, it's like, it's brown skin. Oh, that'll do.
Yeah, man.
What? You know, that's super racist. And he's of Iranian heritage. They're Persian, not Arab. If you call them Arab, they're bloody damn mental. Yeah. It just shows an absolute total lack of respect for the region and lack of understanding of the region.
It's pitiful. It really is. But I think the bad side is when, you know, like when I go in my box, I want to be remembered as an ordinary Newcastle fan. And so when you look at the people I relate to, those ordinary Newcastle fans, not people who want to run the world or want to be the super fan. I just like people who just want to go to the match, see us win, and like you know, they've been going for 20 years and they've seen nothing happen of any substance. And then they're getting somewhere near where we start to compete, and you're getting all this rubbish in the paper. I mean, I've heard George talk. I tuned into the Geordie's here this week, and I listened to it all. And you know, George said, it's not going to happen. I mean, there's a bloke who's sat on the bench. There's a bloke who's played for Newcastle. He's been a fan for, you know, as long as we've been around, and he's saying, you know, it's just rubbish. But to a lot of fans, and some of the messages I've had this week, it's troubling. It's worrying because they just it's I suppose the way I would describe it, it's like someone running a horse and cart through your daughter's wedding, you know, through the middle of the ceremony when she's dressed in white and the shit's flying and everything. And you think, why are you doing this to spoil the wedding? Why are you doing it? When first time, why have you not troubled us for 14 years? Why did you not come to us before? But you come to us now because you know we hurt you. And I think Steve Race touched on it. It's a testimony to how Newcastle's grown as to how much the lazy press are targeting us.
Yeah, not just lazy, that they've got no intelligence. That's what disappointed me more than anything. Because if there was a good investigative journalist amongst them, they would be finding these things out that we talk about regularly. I mean, it's just crackers, and it's worse than lazy. They're just unintelligent in my view as well, because otherwise they wouldn't keep going down this path.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that yes, not only did I sit on the bench, but in my profession, I've sat on marine arbitrations as an expert witness. And I know that the shipbuilding people, the shipping people are happy to stay in arbitration because they know if they go outside arbitration, anything they say then that's not right becomes criminal, and the risk going to jail. And I've been in 2 cases where they did take it further, and the captain of a ship who scuttled his ship, he ended in jail because he told a lie in the bigger court. And same with an insurance company. They were fined millions and millions because they told lies outside the arbitration. Get away with it in arbitration, but not once you step outside, then you come into criminal matters. And these people, see, these journalists don't even know that, or don't even want to know it by the sound of it. If they had an ounce of sense as a good investigating journalist, they might have found some of this out. But I don't think they cares. Some of it, I'm firmly convinced, Keith, is spite, because they got shown up over the takeover. They kept spouting the fact that it wasn't going to happen, and it did happen. And because they don't understand why it happened, all right, we'll try and open it again, or we'll have a go again. It's just outrageous and lacks intelligence, entirely, in my view.
They were proven, George. They were proven. They were proven as a group to be out of touch with what was happening, and what the takeover proved to anybody with a modicum of legal sense was that Newcastle kept a tight ship. But from the whole, you know, it'll come out one day is when Newcastle weren't allowed to announce that they were in litigation with the club. And that came out one day when the club wrote a letter to me telling us they were in litigation. So I went to the club and said, "Hey, are you in litigation?" He said, "Yeah." "Who says that?" And I said, "It's in this letter." Newcastle went to the press, they went to television, they went on 6 o'clock news, Time Tees, BBC that night. And Newcastle said, that's great for us because we want this to be publicised. And the whole tactic of the EPL was privacy, nobody can talk, and procrastination to slow it down. There was, and the Newcastle were fighting for openness and expedition to get it through quick. Now, the press were going up Newcastle for stories, and Newcastle was saying nothing to say, nothing to say. They weren't being awkward with the press. They weren't allowed to say anything. The signed documents say they couldn't talk. So that's why the press were blinded all the way through. I mean, in fairness, there's 3 years on here, know very, very well that the people buying the club were in the dark a lot of the time. You know that. And you came to me for what was going on and fed it back. And so we had a dialogue going both ways. So we in our group, we had somebody on the buyer's side and someone on the seller's side. And that's what annoyed people. That's what chased people off. So when people put it out, or when we give stuff to Liam Kennedy at the time, that annoyed people because other people weren't getting the inside story. And it's over and done with now. Let's enjoy it. But if there's half a dozen reporters out there want to cause mischief, I put offers out this week. I said, well, come on, let's meet in public, and I'll bring some evidence I've got. You bring what evidence you've got. There's going to be an investigation. Newcastle are going to struggle because there is no investigation. And if there was, they'd lose. Yeah.
And the biggest loser would be the ones that have sit up front thinking that they're running it all, like Richard Masters and people like that. Because if that ran, and I've said to you before, Keith, there's a mischievous side of me that says, well, all right, bring it on. Let's do the thing. Let's do it. And then we can watch them as they go off to jail,
I'll tell you something. I remember years ago, I was running a court case in England, and I've told you before on the show that the combined legal fees was 55 million for competition action. That was far bigger than this one Newcastle running with the Premier League. Far bigger, like times 10. But in England, you're not allowed to coach people. In law, you're not allowed to coach people in law. One of the laws is you go into court, you put somebody fresh on the stand, you're allowed to coach them. In America, you are allowed to coach them. In America, the barristers, the legal people are allowed to coach the people. So what they did with me is they put us in cases in America to coaches to know how to act in court. And then I came back to England, if you like, groomed, trained and ready. I tell you what, biggest advice I'll give you after watching that DCMS meet is get our friend Richard over to the America pretty quick and get some coaching. Because I tell you what, if a man was let's say iffy or poor on the stand, he was dying. He died last week, and he's every time he's being cornered, all the signals come over you. I mean, as punters,
he wouldn't stand up in a magistrate's court.
No, and there's a magistrate saying that. So that you're kind of a better endorsement. I just don't think he comes over as a genuine, credible witness. But it is hard.
No, only thing better in the long grass than Richard Masters is a Viet Cong sniper.
But anyway, nice jovial Friday night before a big game on Sunday.
we knew it would be an interesting start anyway.
Right, it's good. It's just crack amongst each other, isn't it? It's not.
Of course, it's
not built. It's just
exactly. Well, it took us up to tweet of the week. And as always, plenty of tweets sent in, a lot of them by Zora, so thank you to Zora. A wise man once told his wife nothing because he was a wise man. Due to the financial problems surrounding a lot of football clubs at the moment, Manchester United have had to release 25 members of staff from the payroll. The 15 referees and 10 linesmen are said to be devastated.
That was mine.
Very good, Keith. Growing up, British. Can I play? I don't know, mate. It's not my ball.
Yes.
So true,
Tango Whiskey Charlie. Spot on. How did you know? Thanks to Hamish for this one. Shall we use 2 S's? Nah, one will be fine. You sure? Oh, dear me. Fail, epic fail. Safe standing at St James's Park on the days before health and safety.
Well, yes. Great one, Martin.
Brilliant. I remember them days.
Remember those days, yeah.
Fantastic photograph of this. Finally found a good use for cauliflower.
Oh,
Very good, that.
Yeah.
Very good. As was this. Meanwhile, in Egypt.
Oh,
Definitely looks like Michael Jackson. Very good, Ian. Like that one. And brought this back as a memento of my recent holiday in Florida. It's a Miami Vice.
Dougie,
oh
go on,
God.
Dougie.
Christ.
Thanks, Doug.
Oh, dear
Dougie.
me.
Dougie.
Serial killer theme now. Fred Best, one of the best, gave this man an opportunity and he would bury it.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Thanks, Doug. And that was sharply followed by this one from Doug. Westlife. Gets worse.
Dougie, man.
Sam Smith appearing as the masked singer.
Oh, my
Oh,
God.
for God's sake.
And Ian Hull with his usual Mexican stuff. Mexican word of the day spreadsheet. Gringos has used manure to grow food. Farmers pay me to spread sheet on their crops so they grow faster.
He loves them, Ian, doesn't he?
Loves them, doesn't he? I get at least 2 a week.
Mad Spengo, man.
Jonathan Anderson, my favourite type of graffiti is passive-aggressive, sarcastic graffiti. And at the top there, Newcastle to Haymarket, it says guesstimate. And at the bottom, it says pointless looking, never on time anyway. Excellent. This was good as well from Dougie. I sent this to 3 people and no one got it. Where are my arty artist friends who get how funny this is? Very good, Dougie. Did like that. He sent some class stuff in. That's an old photo.
Oh.
Yes, Doug. And this one from Dougie as well. When I was a baby, my parents used to bath me in cheap Australian lager. It wasn't until I was 18 that I realised I'd been fostered.
Oh, God.
He's mad.
Oh, God.
Evil Knievel, crossing there. And Jimmy always gets it close to the bone. When you've only been at your job for 2 weeks and already have a reputation. Jimmy followed that up with this one. Great restaurant. Sometimes it's hard to find. The Victoria. Thanks, Jimmy.
Jimmy's on fire.
He definitely was. Michael Jones, thanks for this. My missus keeps pestering me to do my flamingo bird impression every bloody day, she asks. In the end, I had to put my foot down.
Andy's here all week.
Thank you, Michael. I did like this. I got this at the start of the week. Never cook whilst drunk, says Dougie. Tried to make Cadbury's cream eggs last night. There'll be somebody watching this who's tried that.
Sure.
Guaranteed.
Stansted Airport just got back from Kansas. I don't want to talk about it. Did you know that Kansas City welcomes 25 million visitors annually?
Yeah, mate.
And this was good from We Are the Geordies. Really just shows how far we've come. Was this really 2 years ago? Should Steve Bruce leave? 95%. Stay at Newcastle? 5%. Will NUFC be relegated if he stays? Yes, 92%. No, 4%. Unsure, 4%. Who's to blame for Newcastle's situation? Ashley, 53%. Bruce, 34%. Players, 6%. Other, 7%. What other? The tea lady? But yeah, amazing to look back on that. I think it was only a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Haley Ellis, ringing the doctors at 8 a.m. to get an appointment. We're trying to get a cup final ticket as well. Jack Tyndale, sorry, but in a million years, I could never have come up with Keith Arschwank as a parody name for an American conservative. It's just too implausible. There you go. His name, Keith Arschwank. Fantastic. This one from Newcastle United fans. At least we beat them at food. Cheesy hot dog at Old Trafford, £7.50.
Jesus.
That's abysmal, that, mate.
So, you're talking about poor reporting. I saw an article in the paper that said that was from Old Trafford. It was actually a stand outside Old Trafford, but they were trying to pass it off as something that football clubs sell to fans, which, again, rotten, you know.
Last few, Rob Vasey. We've just got a rescue cat from Turkey. I got this one last week. Sorry,
I had one of them in this week, you know.
I bet you did. Brian, I missed this one. He says, "What a name! First name, second name."
To proud day for the second name family.
Just clearly forgot to put his name in. I was going to post a joke about sodium, but thought, nah, people wouldn't understand.
Right.
Very good.
Very good. Very clever.
Chemical symbols.
It speaks for itself, that one.
Certainly does.
Excellent. And this one, when going fishing, take an action figure with you. It makes your catch look amazing.
That's clever, that.
Yeah. Sarcasm doesn't get you anywhere, says Ian. Well, it got me to the Sarcasm World Championships in Peru in 1998. Really? No.
No.
That's sarcasm.
This one as well. My nomination for Tweet of the Week. Robert is a friend and a village neighbour and ex-Royal Navy sub-commander. Great memories of wife and children waving us in and out, particularly vigorously when I took our car keys to sea and the police boat had to ferry them to my wife. Thanks to Ian for this one as well. Rock, sand, and then you don't have to put on the red light.
Yes.
And what's the first thing you do after sex? Daniel's answer was a bit disturbing. Continue the autopsy whilst reminding myself that a moment of weakness that doesn't make me a bad vet.
Oh, dear me.
Getting back to something more civilized, thanks to Andrew for this one. Can I nominate this as Tweet of the Week? And it's a bit of artwork from Jess Bennett, Daddy97, and the band on the back end going up to St. James's Park. I think that's fantastic. So,
I think Jess is just a baby, hasn't she? And that's that's her dream now, that the dad will be able to take a Ben a match one day. That's lovely.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. Dougie Morris, thanks for this time. And certainly is everything. That's really good.
Superb.
Great photograph, that. Just had a dream that would beat Manchester United 318-8. Fingers crossed that becomes a reality. Papa Flurf replied, can't see it happening. Our defence is too good to be letting 8 in. Star Trek here from Stephen Kennedy. How was the seminar on erectile dysfunction? That was a total flop. Nobody came.
Oh, dear. Oh.
And Paul Summers, Inga sulking because I've just had to lecture her again about how it is both unethical and unhygienic to try and lick my face after she's eaten another dog's jobby in plain sight on her morning walk. Thanks, Paul. Last couple. Nice to see Everton's new grounds coming along perfectly, a bit like their vision for staying in the Premier League. Keep up the good work.
Look at that.
Great seat. And I got a weird friend request this week. Thanks to Twain Gabriella, drug and gun dealer. Dear God. Needless to say, that ended on the ignore pile.
She's on the panel next week, though.
She's on the panel next week.
You flow there, Steve.
Yeah, absolute classic. Just want to remind people, John's put it in the chat already. The Alan Shearer signed ball is up for grabs. £1 a ticket, 150 tickets. Enter at nufcmatters.com. Now, a little bit earlier than normal, we are going to go into the match at the weekend for a reason. Keith's old pals here. Melly.
Hey!
Smelly Melly off the telly. Smelly.
He's fully dressed. He's on his way. He's on his way to the game already. We're doing kick off to Sunday, man.
No, I put this on because obviously we're United.
Aye.
We're playing Newcastle.
Oh, dear me.
You're doing this in the house, like, is that where you have to go and sit in the car when you talk to us?
Well, no, it's like the Waltons in my house. I don't know if Steve tell you, but I've got 8 kids. So trying to get 5 minutes, I couldn't do it, so I just jumped in the motor.
You're obviously not very good at the rhythm method, I take it.
Steve, anyway, just quickly.
Go on.
That Twain, that last that you just put up with a friend request, I accepted that because it says I had one mutual friend, Steve Rafe.
What a classic.
Class, Melly.
Okay, Melly, here we are. Mind games again from Ten Hag, trying to tell us that Marcus Rashford was injured and saying that, still maintaining Newcastle is a bit of an annoying team. I listened to Eddie Howe's press conference today. He doesn't get sucked into mind battles, he said, and from his perspective, he doesn't listen to what anybody else says, just cracks on. How do you see this game this weekend, mate? Because, Newcastle obviously played Manchester in the final. we got beat 2-0, fair and square, 2 goals. We look at it probably as a learning curve for ourselves. But from your perspective, how big a game is this for you, and how much of a miss is Casemiro going to be?
Huge miss, Casemiro, massive miss. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I'm normally got the last twice I've been on with you, I've said, like, I've got a feeling we're going to beat it, but I've just got a feeling like you're going to get something off where you gone into the international break. You had 2 good wins, which I thought you needed to win them to maintain your top 4 push, and you did it. You did it well. I just think the international break probably come at the wrong time for you, but I just haven't got a good feeling. I think you'll nick it. You've got something to prove. You got beat in the final. We can say convincingly, because like I said the last time, I believe Newcastle could have played for another 2 days and not scored that day. I just didn't know what happened to them. So I think he's going to be full of vengeance, and unfortunately, I think you'll probably nick it. It's a big game for Man United, but if anybody's truthful, they'll say that we've never been in the title race, although we were in a title race until recently. We just need to get top 4 now. Am I right in thinking that if you win, you're going above her?
Yeah.
It's massive. It's massive for you if you do that. Like, I think he's going to get Champions League football next year. For Man United, we've got a bit of an easier run in after Newcastle, so I think we'll still get top 4. I think they need to focus on the 2 cups. 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting run in for Newcastle, Spurs, and Manchester United. Do you think the Spurs managerial change is going to be beneficial or negative? They've chosen not to bring somebody in, Melly. They've decided to go with the backroom staff until the end of the season.
Well, that tells you everything. I think, like, if they were going to push for top 4, then they would have just brought the top manager straight in. I think they wanted Tuchel, but PSG, like, I think they've have jumped on that and brought him straight in, because he would have went to Tottenham, I think. With what happened to Chelsea, I think he would have ended up there. So when he's gone there, they've just thought, look, if we can get Europe, we'll get Europe. We'll go on with the backroom staff. Normally, when a new manager comes in, you know what the crack is. They'll get a win, they'll get 2 wins, but I don't know. No, I don't think you got anything to worry about with Spurs. I think Newcastle's got to be favourites for the top 4 now. Like that tweet said, you might win 318-8, but you can't say you're conceding 8. It's true. You didn't concede goals, So Isaac, you need to play him more. I would even play him with Wilson. I don't know why the 2s aren't getting played together. Wilson can hold the ball up, and Isaac's very clever with his feet. That goal that was offside, what he did with his feet before that, it was just, he's a player. He is a player.
No, definitely is. Takeover talk. We've had a big discussion about our takeover, which of course was done a long time ago now, but still makes headlines because Premier League are changing the rules now and trying to prevent takeovers. What's the feeling from Manchester United fans' perspective about a potential takeover at yours? And does it look more like the Qataris than anything else? Or what are you feeling about this whole thing?
Nah, I've just got a horrible good feeling that the Glazers were fishing. But I would like the Qataris to look. Ultimately, they're going to end up owning the Premier League, the whole lot. That's the way that it's gone, because it's worth so much money. It's the best league in the world by a country mile. I mean, if you look at the figures that Spain get for their TV figures, and no wonder it's an absolute turmoil. But the Premier League it's up there, advertising wise, which is why Mike Ashley hung on to you for so long. Like he's a businessman ultimately, and I think the Qataris will get it. They're going to clear all the debt. They're in nearly £1 billion worth of debt, man. It's being claimed. I don't know how the Premier League can allow that to happen. First and foremost, it's absolutely ridiculous. So they'll come in, they'll clear the debt. They'll invest in Manchester. I've seen the day in Manchester City. What they are doing is. Have you been to the City ground before any years?
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. Like it's 4 lanes in. They've got like a bridge to the academy, and so they've got the money, but they haven't got the fans. We've got the fans, but we haven't got the money. And if the Qataris get it, I think Manchester will just become absolutely unbelievable. Watch Newcastle the next 10 years. Like we'll get on the debate where if St James's Park should be moved. Everybody loves going to St James's Park as an away fan because you're in the middle of the city centre. So, maybe his movies down to where the arena is. That would be good. Sorry, that's one of the youngins.
That's all right. I can hear. Last question, because I
It's
know
when the
you've got your
bird
hands
said,
full.
"Stop talking shite, father." That's what that's.
Scott McTominay.
What would you keep St James's Park? Or would you want a new ground?
Yes.
It's a crazy argument, but if someone tuned in midway through the show and they saw someone with the Man United hat on, tell them where Newcastle should play the games, they'll switch it off. But I think it's a debate for another day. I think the first thing to do is take the roof off the Gallagher and take that stand round, put it to 6,000 or 7,000. I think that's the next step. But wherever Newcastle play that, what they're going to do next is get the results to get some top four. That it brings the players that'll bring it'll obviously improve FFP and then you compete. I mean, at the minute, Newcastle are out overperforming on what they've spent. You know, like where they're at, they shouldn't be as where they are. But you just said, I mean, you're a Man United supporter, but you're an honest lad, and you're saying that they look favourites for top four. Personally, absolutely. I think it will be Man United and Newcastle that they get the other two spots. I don't say Spurs or the others get them. But there's one thing you said which shocked us, like you said about Man United's not in for the title. If you keep going, you've been for one title. That's the biggest debt in the league because Tottenham's top with $1 billion, but you've got about 600,000. Well, 600 million, haven't you? Debt.
It's 987. It's
987. So you're trying to get top of Tottenham for that, the biggest debt.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
This is what.
About the debt, because there is a strong rumor that Tottenham have given up the ghost this season in terms of getting in the top four, because there is actually a massive bonus that's got to be paid to Conte if he gets into the top four, and basically don't want to lash out
that's why they couldn't sack him.
That's right, and they knew that they had very little to pay by letting him go with only a couple of months of the season left in his contract, but the clause that was there, if he gets him into the top four, is supposed to be huge. So I think they've given up on it, and I think that they're gonna try and go for a fresh start. But the big question is, do they get Pochettino? Is he now going to come back and try and rebuild them? Is the manner that they think, forgetting, of course, how they got rid of him. And I don't think that man's forgotten. And I think there's going to be a job at Real Madrid coming up, because it looks like our friend at Madrid is going to head off to Brazil, and there's going to be a big job at Real. And I think that's where Pochettino will end up. And I think Tottenham will regret doing what they've done to Conte, because I think that they're scrambling around and there'll be no managers wanting to go there.
I think, Steve, you've got a point there. Is like Man United's proven without crazy money coming in. I mean, the Glazers must be awful owners, as Melly probably said. But I think Man United's proven, put a good manager in, they've turned it round.
Exactly.
And they've played great football. But the other thing is, and Mitch said it the other week, you're not going to see another year like this again when Chelsea and Liverpool aren't around the top five. For me, if like this old phrase, the Cartel Six or the Big Six, whatever you call them, I think Newcastle replaced Tottenham in that this year. I think Tottenham's the one club. I thought Arsenal would struggle, to hang in there, but I think it's going to be Tottenham. And the reason I think that is, I think the stadiums is maybe better than Wembley. I think it's that good. But I genuinely believe that the debt, you've got £1 billion of debt, you've got an aging squad, and you've got disharmony in the dressing room. And if you look at Man United, you've got to go and spend. I mean, look at Casemiro's contract. You haven't just put some small players in. You need some big, proper players to turn the dressing room round and turn the squad round and start turn. If you look at the team Man United played Brentford this season to the team that played for the last 6 games, or look at the team beat Barcelona, it's a completely different culture and a different mindset. I don't think Tottenham's got the money to do that. I think Spurs as a big, as a top 4 club or as a Champions League club, I think they're finished. I think they're out of it. I think
oh dear, how sad. Never mind. The team that tried. Can I
drop a little thought on Qatar here at the moment as well? Just food for thought. That if somebody in Qatar has 7 billion available to invest abroad, why have BeIN Sports not had the money to buy the European qualifiers this season?
Yes.
And why they injected the EPL?
I haven't. The only way I've been able to watch England in the Middle East is with IPTV.
Yeah.
All the sports bars have been shut because beIN don't have the rights. Why do beIN not have the rights? They don't have the money. They're desperate for investment. And if somebody in Qatar, who might have 1.7 personal billion wealth, and then suddenly has a foundation that's appeared out of nowhere in the middle of February that allegedly has 5.5 billion wealth, is doing something abroad, their government will be pressuring them to invest internally, because that's where they need it right now. Food for thought.
I think it's coming. I think beIN Sports is coming. That's next.
beIN Sports will be propped up by PIF. That's the next investment, and that's the next investment in beIN Sports, if you ask me. They've already had talks. They're already interested in it. It's another reason why everything fell into place with the whole piracy issue and dropping certain things, because they wanted their people to watch Newcastle United on beIN Sports, who have the rights for the region. The next thing is investment and a brotherhood and a closeness of the brotherhood between Qatar and Saudi, which is all theatre. It's all drama, like the previous stuff was as well. But I do wonder if somebody had the money to take 7 billion outside of the country and invest it elsewhere, he would be under extreme pressure from the government to invest it internally, because there's places in Qatar right now need it.
And do you think, Melly, that if Qatar don't go ahead, which I've got to say, I think without having there's no wind up here, I think the panel here all think that the Glazers are just playing them. But is that your fear as a Man United fan? Do you feel
that is that is my personal feeling?
I've spoken a couple like offline this week, and they're like good crack, and they're just like us, you love us like we love ourselves, you love yourselves, you love Man United, we love Newcastle. But they said to me, they like lads who go every week, and they said like they'll take Ratcliffe's bid, they'll take another company coming in. But what's these are lads who go really do following Man United this year. The big thing is to get rid of the debt. They don't want a debt-ridden club. They don't want an American model, if you know what I mean, where it's mortgaged. And more than anything, they want the Glazers out. More than anything.
Well, before they were taken over, they were debt-free.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like if you just take their dividends into play, it's nearly 600. It's nearly 600 million alone.
Yeah.
So
and this is why leverage takeovers. That's the thing.
I don't know how it's been allowed.
That's the thing the Premier League and the football need to look at. Look at this. Look at the state Burnley are in. Leverage takeover, get relegated, top of the Championship, under sanctions because the money doesn't add up. And all of these leverage takeovers end up in one place. Disaster. And that's from the very top of the game to the very bottom of the game. And that's what you've been subjected to, which is wrong. Look, as a football fan, I'll stand and say it's utterly wrong. It's not right.
It's wrong.
You shouldn't be able to take the assets from a club and load debt onto the club from those assets as part of your purchase strategy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
I think
you're in a situation now where there's a handful of people around the world who can buy you out of it. And I promise you right now, Sheikh Jassim isn't one of them.
Melly,
I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe's probably the better bet. But I go on, Steve. Sorry, mate.
Just want your views on Scott McTominay. I mean, obviously, Newcastle heavily linked with him. I mean, it's there's a split in Newcastle's fan base. Some think it's an improvement on Longstaff. Other people thinking, well, gone are the days of having our cast-offs from teams that we're competing with. I guess. What's your views and what's Man United fans' views on McTominay leaving?
You took the words out of my mouth. I was actually going to ask you what you thought, but mate, it'd be a cracking signing. I don't know what Longstaff's a good player. On his day, he is a good player. At the end of the day, they're all human. So if I put my carpet fitter on with somebody who isn't a very good carpet fitter, after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, his performance drops, and it's the same with football. Longstaff's now shown what he can do. McTominay, when he gets his chance, if he was playing 90 minutes week in, week out, what a player you'll be getting, man. Honestly, you've seen him against Spain through the week. That's confidence because he feels confident in the team. At United, he's not like that because it's split fan base. They think he's Fergie's love child and, he should never be getting a game. But I'm sure I don't speak for all Man United fans when I say that. Adam think that. I think he's a good player and he wears his heart on his sleeve, and that's what you don't get nowadays. People are turning up and they're just wanting 100 grand a week and they're not asked. Whereas Scott McTominay he's bothered. He plays for the badge, and they're the type of players you want in your team. 100%.
It reminds me of the situation that Darren Fletcher was in at Man United, where a lot of the fan base couldn't get behind him because he wasn't a superstar. He hadn't cost 50 million or whatever, and that lad grafted and justified his place in that team, and he became the first name on the sheet for a number of managers. And I think that's thing with McTominay. I think he has to work twice as hard, a bit like Longstaff with us. He has to work twice as hard to justify his place in the team. And even though he's working twice as hard, sometimes he doesn't get the gratitude that he deserves. And he's the first name off the team sheet because a certain manager might think, well, he didn't cost 50 million either, and fall into the same mindset.
At the cup final, everyone I spoke to had the same opinion. They all wanted him to stay. They wanted McTominay to stay.
I do. Like you say, when the players are coming through the ranks, just last season, half the Man United fan base wanted Rashford to sell to PSG. Confidence again. A little bit of confidence, and he's like, he's bollocks now in Old Trafford. So people are fickle. 1 minute they love them, 1 minute they're different. But if you get Scott McTominay, rest assured, you're getting a player that will give you 100% for every single minute that he plays for you.
Interesting stuff. McTominay isn't coming here, agent trying to do a deal, says John. So we'll wait and see. Sean says if the club thinks McTominay is the right player, then he's the right player. We've got great people at the club now. Amanda said it herself that we can't afford duds with financial fair play. Trust the process. And as our resident Manchester United fan says, I'm a Stretford ender. McTominay is not good enough to start. He'll work hard, but the quality's not there. Thanks, Az, for that. Melly,
you know what? You know what, mate? It's the same with Casemiro. Everybody's blowing smoke up his butt, but he has bad days. He makes a lot of bad passes. But like you say, they're diving out that because he does so much good. I don't know, mate. A lot of stuff happens off the ball, and I don't know. I wouldn't like Scott to leave, but if you get him, you're getting a good player. Just quickly before you chuck us off, Steve.
Go on.
So Sunday, I have got tickets for the weigh-in, but I'm in my pal's box. So do you mind if I just give him a quick shout out?
Go for it.
It's A1 Fire Stopping. Thanks very much, Martin.
Good stuff. And Melly's Carpets. Where can people find details about Melly's Carpets?
We are based next door to Ashington and next door to Argos in Ashington. It's a 3-story building. Carpets, sofas, beds, whatever you need.
Good stuff, Melly. Prediction for Sunday? You've said you think Newcastle might nick it.
I will, but I could never ever back against my team, so I'm going to go 2-1 Man United.
I thought you'd finish off on a high for your own team. Melly, as always, good to have you on, mate. Take care, pal.
Thanks, lads.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
See you later.
See you, man.
Good to have him on, as always. Giving Newcastle a bit of credit for a change there. Okay, I did miss a couple of things last week. I missed Elliot, and I did miss Troll of the Week, so they are to come later on. But for now, we're going to have the day I met. And I know some of you don't like the music, but tough. I'm not changing it. Nice and simple this week. It's one from Dunnell, who's in the chat tonight. The day I met, he says, Nobby Solano. Thanks very much, Dunnell. Good photographs. Good to see. And many more events coming up over the course of the next few months, and hopefully see you at them. Okay, we're halfway through the show. Time to go and put the kettle on. Here's the ads. Big thanks to all our sponsors. Thanks to Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. And you can find them at mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk and place an order by phoning 01768 210 102. Thanks to Fruity Vita Getaways. Book your holidays or short breaks in the UK or around the world with them. Let them find your happy place. ABTA and ATOL registered. You can contact them by emailing fruityvitagetaways@gmail.com. Call or text 0792 842 7895 and join their Facebook group at Fruity Vita Getaways. Thanks to Media Arts for all the technical help and videos that they do. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. If you want to join the channel, click join and you can see the various rates that you can pay to help support us. If you want to join by subscribing, hit the subscribe button. That is free. Hit the thumb up under the video to help the algorithm, and click share to other social media platforms. If you do subscribe, we do give you a free car sticker. Just email John at nufcmatters.com and he will post you one out. If you want to join the cult, which is a one-off payment of £25, where you get a scarf, a pen, a cup, and entry into the monthly draw, then go to nufcmatters.com and look for the cult membership, or put your phone over this smart code and it will take you straight there. We are available as well as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. And we do support the food bank on this channel. So if you want to make a virtual donation from anywhere in the world, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and put your money into the match day bucket. We've got some events coming up. First off in April the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 11th. Peter Beardsley Soccer School is back for ages 6 to 16 years. Go to peterbeardsleysoccerschool.com for more information. An evening with John Anderson at the Time House Surf Cafe, Tuesday the 18th of April. Book your tickets direct from the venue. An evening with Frank Clark and John Gibson 2 nights later. Thursday the 20th of April at the Irish Centre. Tickets from nufcmatters.com. An evening with Nobby Solano at Laurel's in Whitley Bay is May the 11th. So contact the venue direct if you want to go to that event. And we've got our NUFC Matters end of season party, which is the 27th of May at 7 o'clock. Tickets are a tenner from nufcmatters.com. An evening with Rob Lee at Louis Liquor Store, 1st of June. And tickets direct from the venue. And an evening with Rob Lee, Lee Clark and John Beresford, Friday the 2nd of June at the Grand Hotel Gosforth, which is in aid of the Healing Tour charity. And you can get your tickets direct from them at the healingtour.org.uk website. Just click events. A little bit later in the year, an evening with Gavin Peacock, July the 10th. Tickets from nufcmatters.com for that one. And if you like your boxing, a night of champions featuring Frank Bruno, Ricky Hatton, Nigel Benn and Joe Calzaghe. Tickets for that one from goldstarpromotions.com. Okay, well, I've got the monthly draw for those of you who are £25 members. If you've paid your one-off fee, tonight is the night. And we've got a special prize donated by qtechshop.co.uk. It is a Peter Beardsley Soccer School tracksuit. So there you go. You'll be the first person to have one of these, and a unique prize that from John. So thank you for supplying that. And the winner is... Rachel, I think that is. So well done, Rachel. You were going to talk.
Well done, Rachel.
John.
Well done.
You are the lucky winner. And our friends at Football Prizes have got another competition running until Wednesday, and that is the Anthony Gordon signed and framed Newcastle United shirt. Go to footballprizes.co.uk. Tickets are £3.95. Those tickets will sell quickly, I can imagine. Okay. How big a set of fixtures is this, Mitch? Let's get on the football side of things. Manchester United, we know we've got them at the weekend. Look at those games. West Ham, Brentford, Villa, Spurs, Everton, Southampton. That doesn't fill me with fear, Mitch. This has got to be a big this is going to be a big month, isn't it? And this is a big week, 3 games in a week.
In a word, winnable. They're all winnable, home or away. If you look at our form, if you look at how our back four performs, if you look at everything statistically, there's two things for me still need to happen. Somebody genuinely will get an absolute thrashing off us this season. The performance since Christmas has been frustrating, but if you look at the data on XG, which is something I still struggle to get my head around sometimes, but it hasn't dropped that much. That means we're still making the chances. We just haven't been taking the chances. And that'll come right. And I'm convinced it will. The back four, for a back four going through a shaky period, they're not too bad, are they? You know? And so again, there's things there that won't happen again. But I cannot see Botman making many more mistakes. I can't see Pope making many more mistakes. And so if we've got all of that out of our system, where we're going to go with it? And the only thing that is perhaps a little frustrating is we've got that run of 3 away games on the trot. That doesn't happen very often. And it's circumstance, it is what it is. But I think we're shown this season, home or away, it doesn't make that much difference to it. In fact, I think we've played some of our better football, whisper this quietly, away from home. Whether that's because there's been a bit more concentration, less distraction from crowd urging people on. I mean, I know Pardew used to use that as an excuse loads because the crowd got too excited. Oh, pardon us for getting a bit excited because we're winning a football game. You know, it fascinates us. I genuinely don't think we're a team that is too affected by playing away from home. So I think there's other teams might look at a run of 3 games away from home and go, okay, we'll take a point from that. We won't be happy with a point from that. All the games are winnable, and they're against sides who we've already proved we'll go more than toe-to-toe with this season. And so, this next 5-6 weeks is pretty definitive, I think, about where things are going to land, and it's all in our own hands. And for all a load of journalists don't like being told that, they want to ignore us and rule us out of all sorts of things. It's all in our own hands. And I can see we're getting a very nice haul of points from all of that, just simply if we play to our strengths and do what we've been doing all season. We don't have to do anything different. And we're not distracted by any other competitions now. And so, yeah, bring it on. I can't wait, to be honest with you.
Keith?
I think we got through the toughest time, and you know, they said somebody said you had like a 35-day test or somebody, I don't know, after the cup final. But Newcastle test, the big test was last week. We played 2 teams, had the peckers up, fighting for their lives, and under any other manager, honestly, Steve Bruce had put that side, I would have got battered. But there's very, very few coaching squads would have got a win in the 88th minute or somewhere, 90th minute or whatever, like they did in Wolves and Forest. They were just 2 great. I don't know. That win against Forest away from home, when Anderson's goal was cancelled and they scanned around the pitch, the Forest fans were going mental. I think they'd won the cup. They were like going ballistic, as though this is their moment because a goal had been cancelled. And when you're away from home, the last 10 minutes, you think, shit, you know, we're up again it now. We're hanging on. But Newcastle, that goal counted. They hit the bar, they hit the post, but then the goal came, and that's mammoth for Newcastle. Which really they should have won. Newcastle should have won bigger against Forest. You know, they could have been out the side. But those two really hard games to win. So what's changed at Newcastle? Well, first of all the records have stopped. So we've lost all our unbeaten runs. You know, like haven't been beaten for so long, haven't conceded a goal for so long. Because Pope was, you know, not conceded for so many 100 minutes and all this. And all that's gone. But what happens in football is, yeah, you go. And when you look at that BBC column, you know, all them green boxes that top teams have, all of a sudden you get red in. So we've got bit of Man City and we've got bit of Liverpool and the two Reds, and then you drew. And we look like the draw makers. But seriously, when records go and you get through a blip like we have and you get 6 points in a week in two tough games and you fight till the end, I think the next thing you start setting records again. And I genuinely think Newcastle's going to come again in a run at the end of the season. I think we will start going on a run again. And I think Mitch is right. I don't think Pope, you know, God, in the whole season he's been exceptional, but he might have made two gooks. He might have made two gooks. That just means he's human. That means he's got a pulse. But you know, like you forget that one kid become of age against Forest. Elliot Anderson became a man. He became the kid, the Geordie Maradona, that was being brilliant at Bristol Rovers. So you just look at him and think, well, you know, he's somebody. I wouldn't be frightened to play against Man United. Now, a few weeks ago, I wouldn't have been, but I saw him come of age when he hit that volley at the start of the game. And then when he climbed and got the header, and it didn't stop him. And you think Murphy's grown, you know, better, but you know, don't underestimate the graft that Sean Longstaff does. You've got Joe Linton to come back. This is starting to get like a tough midfield again. And you know, I've seen a game at Newcastle I never thought I'd see. A midfield of Bruno, Willock, and Longstaff. And Willock and Longstaff were the best two. I mean, that's never happened. But what will come now is when you bring these players back in, where it was all kick, you know, Bruno, you've stopped him. There's more to our midfield now. There's more to our game. Isaac's come. Isaac's looking a proper handful. You know, Isaac's looking like the man to start with. You know, you never heard us say this before, but you know, I'm going to be honest, me. ESM, I've always been his biggest fan, but he didn't do enough for me. Somebody says he had an injury against Forest, but he didn't look hungry enough in Forest in that first 45 minutes to tell me that he's determined to get top four. So to me, Elliot Anderson did. And I'll be the first to say, start with Anderson for him, because you've got to bring hunger back. You've got to bring hunger back through Wilson. You've got to get Isaac scoring and Wilson fighting to get back in. When people do that, they come on and it just lifts all the games. Steve Race says, I don't see anything wrong in them fixtures. I look at the fixtures and I think, West Ham, the poor. You know what I mean? Like Villa, the poor. Like we can beat all them. All it's a case of is doing what got us here. And for me, you'll struggle to high press with Wilson and Maxi because they don't look fit enough or they don't look hungry enough to close the play down. But if you're playing the likes of Gordon, the likes of Isaac, the Longstaffs, the Willocks, they're putting a shift in. And we start high pressing, beat anybody. We start doing what got us here. We can beat anyone, and I think we'll start setting records again. I think we'll have a run in. I think we'll get more than 21 points, and I think we'll get third.
Happy 75th birthday to Richard Naylor. He says 75 years of age today. What a better way to celebrate than to watch this programme.
Thank you
very much.
God bless you.
Good to see Clubber Lang back in the chat as well. He's got 2 new dogs, so he's obviously been busy. They're called Rolex and Casio. They're watchdogs, apparently.
Oh, dear me.
And Clubber Lang's also, he had to go out and buy a new lawnmower today. The old one just wasn't cutting it, apparently. So,
all right.
Busy day for Clubber. Good to have him back. Good to have him back in the chat. I think everybody will agree. George, this run-in, it's exciting, isn't it? 12 games.
It is.
Enjoy. That's what Eddie Howe said. He was asked, are you going to enjoy it? And he said, yeah.
Absolutely. Me too, because I'm like the other lads. I've got no fear that we can win these games, and that's the important thing. I think I've said to you all before about the Forest game. Some of the other things, other than the final result, really made me feel good. Go back to Elliot Anderson. He showed what he is and come, as Keith says, came of age. But like so many young players, and I've seen it happen in the people I've played with, they score a great goal and it gets disallowed for whatever reason. And it knocks the stuffing out of them that's it. They're finished for 10 minutes. Well, Elliot wasn't. He just got up and got better. And that tells you a lot about the mental strength of the lad. So, like Keith, I wouldn't hesitate about starting him now. The other thing is the Isaac's ability as an athlete, as a complete athlete, scoring that volley. You see the way he twisted his body to get his foot on that ball, and not only get his foot on the ball, but to direct it in the far corner away from the goalkeeper. They're class things that we possess now and want to make use of them. So I've got no fear of these games, that we should be able to take West Ham. He's absolutely right. They will collapse if they go down, one down. Brentford are beatable, as are the others as well. So no, I'm looking forward to it and got no fear that we should get a good return out of these away games, and then come home and wallop Tottenham. I think Tottenham could be the team that feels the venom at the end of that run, actually. So no, I don't got no fears at all.
Steve, just quickly on the fixtures before we talk about that breaking news. Great
fixtures, great games to play. Newcastle's are there. The games are there for Newcastle to win. I think we're going to be on we can get back to winning ways. We showed that, and I think we can go on another run. None of those games that you would turn around and say we should have any difficulty with. And we're playing teams who are scrambling around at the bottom. But you know what? The way, as the guys have said, the way we're playing away from home, there's a different sort of confidence among the squad in the way that they set themselves up, and they're quieting the opposition fans down. And I know Mitch's favourite word might have something to do with that, because of the way that we go about it. But no, I've got no worries. I'm looking forward to the next 7 fixtures, just like everybody else.
Yeah, okay. Win or lose, it's just brilliant to have a great tight squad of young mates and a happy football club. 2 fingers to the haters. How are the lads, says Nicholas from the Felon. Tony needs 1 booking and he'll miss our game for 10 yellow cards, which is good news. Congratulations to Jim, 33. He says, hey all, I've had some good news today. 5 years clear of cancer. So I was fully discharged today.
Well done, club. Welcome to the club.
Fantastic news, mate. Great news. Okay, the headline there, which I've put up onto the screen, basically says that Newcastle have announced a £70 million loss in 21-22. That might be the headline, but there's actually quite an encouraging theme if you read the full thing online. Obviously, it's the end of year figures for that particular campaign. Obviously, they received a bit of investment. They had to go out and spend money in the transfer market. It's an overall loss of 70.7 million. But if you look at the rise in wages that they had to take on board, there has been a £40 million turnover increase since the departure of Mike Ashley. Commercial revenue has gone up by 9 million, with the club making great strides to improve all facets of the business. So, you know, it may be a horrific headline, that, Mitch, in the grand scheme of things. People will be going, £70 million, I thought we're the richest club in the world. That's the kind of thing that you'll get on Twitter tonight, I guess. But actually, if you read in between the lines, it's not a bad set of accounts, that.
And this is where you talk about FFP and what PAF and the Rubens and PCP were left with in terms of commercial deals from Mike Ashley that have hamstrung the club from growth. And this is what we've been talking about. You've got to remember, it's not that long ago, and it's certainly within most people's memory, when our level was the same as Man City and Tottenham, and they've gone on and grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. And we didn't. We stood still. And if you stand still in football, you go backwards. And this is why, when people were getting frustrated about, why don't you just pay the money? This is why it will hamstring us in terms of FFP. You're allowed to lose a certain amount over a 3-year period. And if we'd just gone and paid the money, we could have screwed ourselves for the next 2 years. And this is why those commercial deals hamstring when we need to get out of them and we need to pick it up. And do you know what? This is why an opportunity to get into the Champions League that little bit earlier is actually a good thing and why we should be pushing for it. But the way we can't push for it is by chucking money at it. Because if it doesn't happen, we'll have with egg on my face. And we've got another 4 years to catch up. So the 4-year plan becomes a 7 or 8 year plan. Whereas the way we are at the minute, we're still on a 3-4 year plan. And we've got the bonus that we might actually get there a bit quicker. And so, it's never with these things about the absolute money. It's about the context. And you've got to put these things into context. And this is what I spend my time out here dealing with investors in dentistry who are investors who understand money, but they don't understand dentistry. And you sit down with them and you go, well, nah, not as bad as you might think, mate, because of X, Y, Z. And you might want to think about investing in this, this, and this, because they'll pay you back in no time. Some people get it, some people don't. Same with football clubs. And as Todd Bowley's shown at Chelsea, you can understand FFP, but not understand the culture of football and still put yourself in a ridiculous position. Thank God we have people who understand everything from a 360 vision.
Keith?
I think the best way to put this, if you've got a company that's worth 600 billion and they've got a division like Newcastle that's governed by regulation like FFP and like an EPL and like a cartel that's watching every move you do, what numbers they put on paper when you've got that kind of wealth and backing are relevant, because it's relevant how we perform on FFP, but I wouldn't read too much into it. And the reason being is there'll be a lot of healthy things behind that. Like if you compare Steve Bruce's squad and the 5 that's playing or 5 or 6 that's playing, that how inherited plus what he's brought in. But if you were showing just a 70 million loss on the players that came at that time on a very, very poorly advertised club, this is probably the worst set of figures you'll see for a long time, unless masses of money are put into recruitment. But PIF and the new owners will make them figures what they want. The wealth is so great that probably this year you're talking about is the 1 year where they're strapped with what sponsorship deals are done. So no lucid multi-billion pound company would ever want a deal like the Castore one. The money that brings in is horrendous in terms of what they get. The Fun 88 deal is not super profitable either. So what they're doing is they're doing a set of figures which are hindered by past deals. But this will all change, and they will make sure that the figures that come out next year, the year after, the year after, comply with what they need to comply with and grow the club the way they want to. And the funds are so great that I don't want to be blasé and say it's irrelevant what they put down as figures, but I've worked for multi-billionaires before, and I've worked where they've given divisions and said, right, we want you to show a loss this year, and we want you to show a big loss for this reason. And that's the same in Newcastle. Newcastle are here for a purpose. They're for a purpose to get to the top and to compete with the best. And they'll have to show figures that allows them to do that. So none the least bit worried. I say them figures, I just think they'll be what they'll be. And next year's they'll make them exactly what they want them to be. There'll be sponsorship deals brought in for things you didn't even think got sponsored, which will change next year's figures. And that's how you've just got to trust in those who are doing what they're doing. These guys are taking this right to the top. What concerns me more on big news that breaks isn't Newcastle's figures. It's things like a credible guy saying now that we've really close to doing a deal for Kefram Thuram. It'll definitely happen in the summer. That excites us because that's a position we need to go to. See, other report that's just come through while I've been on there that Everton might get a points deduction this season, and they think that the Everton case and investigation will be wrapped up within 2 months. So that's to me like more relevant, because you're thinking, shit, I thought Everton's would be a 2 or 3 year run, and I thought Man City's would be another 4 or 5 year. But maybe they get that together. But the good thing is Remember the Saudis? Neil will tell you, come through the front door, go out through the front door, and everything they do will be done right. And if they've got restrictions, you can only restrict so much. You can't restrict Newcastle having 1,000 sponsors, because they can sponsor grass if they want. They can sponsor the nets if they want. They can do it. So you'll never stop this thing growing, and that's what the press need to understand. You're not, you try stopping it. Try getting a chihuahua to stop a steamroller. It won't happen, and that's what's happening. They're just yapping on in front of the steamroller, but it's coming, and the figures are important, but they're not, if you know what I mean. Newcastle will make them figures what they've got to be, legitimately.
Yeah, George.
Well,
I was always taught not to read the headline, to read the story. And when you get into the depths of that, it's right. And what the lads are saying, next year's set of accounts is going to go. It's going to look a lot different. And I would imagine the year after that will look even better.
Yeah.
The word I would put into the equation is managed.
Yeah.
There's debt and there's managed debt.
Yeah.
And that's managed debt as far as I'm concerned. And that doesn't worry me too much. I'd rather it was different. But then they're new to the game. That as Keith said and Neil said, they're picking up from the bottom that we're actually left with, where revenue account just virtually nothing compared to what it used to be. Now they're putting that right, and to get there, they're having to manage how they do it. And so the word I'd put into that is it's managed debt. They're in control of it. It's not running away. It's not like next year they're going to announce, like Manchester United did yesterday, that suddenly we're more than $500 million in debt. I mean, I know which I'd prefer. No, it's managed so I can understand it and I can cope with it. And you're right as well, Steve. Look beyond the headline. It's how those figures are made up, what's in them, and where they've come from. And I think the word I go back to was it's managed.
Steve?
£100 million was spent on players to safeguard and secure our Premier League status that particular season. That's the first figure that you have to think about. Why was it done? Because it's very important for Newcastle United to be in the Premier League. You also look at the fact that the salaries of the club, because of those new signings and the quality that were brought in, the salary level went up from 93 to £149 million. So there's £56 million more in salaries being paid out. And the turnover of the club in terms of commercial activity, and it went up from 140 to 180 million. So the club's on the right trajectory, and that's part of the plan, as the lads have already said. So you look at just those three figures alone, and you go, we're making more money, we've spent and invested more money in quality footballers, and we're playing those quality footballers a bit more in terms of where the club needs to be. We keep crying out, we keep saying we've got to buy quality, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. The club's got to grow. It has to grow on all levels. It has to grow on the quality of player, which means it's going to have to grow in the amount of money that they're going to pay those players. And it means the commercial team have got to work their socks off to make sure that we're bringing the money in to be able to afford it. At the moment, the club's running at a loss. And as you said, Steve, you look at the figures, but you look below the headline and you look at what's truly happening in the football club. We're not £1 billion in debt, according to those figures. We're 70 million. Man United, their figures showed that they were £1 billion in the red. So, and that's no coincidence that it's in the red, by the way, with our red shirts. But that's the way it is, guys. Don't worry about it. At the end of the day, we want a successful football team. It's not our money. We don't need to fret and get ourselves concerned, because we had this under Ashley where we all became club accountants and we all started looking at the money, because that's the mindset he got we're into. How many fans out there started to delve into the club accounts and see what's gone, where's the money gone, what's he spending on? We became all wrapped up in the fact he wasn't spending money. Let's just chill and just let we get on with it. And remember, these are the figures up to 2022, middle of last season or the end of last season. We're always a year behind, so don't worry about it. It doesn't equate to where the club is today. It's where the club was, months and months and a year and a bit ago.
Yep.
So-
In the words of the song, don't worry about a thing. Every little thing's going to be
Can I
all
tell you a
right.
little, can I tell you a
Another
little,
song, don't
little
worry,
story?
be happy.
I was talking to my mate who lives down here, Sunderland today. His little kid was stood there today, and he's said to his mum, he says, "Mum, I hate being a Sun supporter." He says, "Can I not be a Newcastle supporter?" So she went today, and she says, "Right, you'll go to bed tonight." She says, "You just pray like hell, pray to Jesus." And he says, "You'll be a Newcastle supporter when you wake up in the morning." And the young one's gone to bed. He's been praying all night. It's in the morning when he wakes up. He's going to wake up. He's still going to be a little muck, and his mum will slap him around the head and say, "April Fool, you little muck of shit."
Yeah. Classic. 25 minutes to go. Big thanks to John from QTech, who always runs his quiz. And if you remember, the first picture that we got from John was this one, 5 foot 10 inches. The second one was Bury. This week's is 3 NUFC goals. So we'll have one more next week.
Dying to give you the answer to that one.
We'll have one more next week. You'll have to get the answer in the chat, and the first person that John picks out will be the winner. Now, I promised you I wouldn't forget stuff this week. So here is Elliot. Having regained consciousness after a car accident at the doctor is trying to convince me that I'm actually a Swedish guy and I've lost my memory. Does he think I was Bjorn yesterday?
Oh, dear. Oh.
Yes, Elliot, mate. That was a good one. Very good. Okay, it's time to make Keith laugh. People are running out of dogs this week. Certainly running out of dogs. This was a one that I got on Instagram. It was a poor start, I thought. Doesn't look anything like Steve Hasty. I'm going to back me mate up here and say it doesn't look anything like him. Tom McFall came in with this one. He's going as Mr. Hasty to a fancy dress party. Keith's doing very well, trying to keep that laugh in at this moment in time. This was from Rita. No apology this week.
Yeah, well,
it's a hat trick for Rita.
Yeah.
The doll got a bit of a mauling. Northumbrian Graham says, has Hasty just had a bodged facelift for the Amigos?
Christ.
Someone's damaged the doll after buying it, by the way. I knew the Roy Hodgson appointment would get the treatment of Albert. I see he's
I was waiting for that.
And this one, again, Instagram. Thanks for that. This one was from Jersey Mag. Steve Hasty you in the on-off takeover, mate.
Just a hamster. Animal cruelty, this.
You walk Hasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Animal cruelty.
RSPCA should look at this programme.
Yeah, aye.
Muppet Hasty, look-alike. That's brilliant.
Yeah, me.
That's excellent.
Jesus Christ, all
I
right.
don't, who on earth does that to a dog?
Well,
New romance. Hasty,
Oh, yeah, you've got to admit that dog looks like Hasty, the way its hair's lopped on one
what do you
side.
mean? What do you mean?
Oh, man, that dog does like. Oh,
Get away, man.
not as much. Not
You
as
need
much
your
as
eyes
this,
seen, no, you.
not as much as this guy.
Dear me.
Hold on, Steve. Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that. Very
Yeah.
good. Cheers for that.
Oh, mate.
Milburn, Steve Hasty having a nice day at the spa and a Hokkaido monkey. Terry was back. Tinsy says, I think I'll have a stab at C. Got Hasty in the bottom left there. Dogs in stars. You can see the words he's actually going to put up. Steve. A lot of effort went into that.
He's done, mate.
What else better to do, Terry?
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew.
Get a life, Andrew.
This one's from Chippers. Seems to be Hasty out for a walk down the
Oh, wait.
Expect no else from him.
And Barry said, who just about he had a postman knock on the door with his parcel when the hairdryer was on.
No, he didn't, Barry. No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
This one, Steve out in the snow.
Steve, I mean, is it like this? I mean, it does look like you, mate.
And just watching the darts on Channel 5, and guess who's there? Steve Hasty.
Steve, deny you don't look like her.
Keith, it only looks like it's when they superimpose me face on it, man.
Hasty after yet another poor VAR decision against the tune.
When they superimpose me face on it, that's it. That's
Stephen Kennedy. Meanwhile, at Pippin Fort, the soldiers have had the results of their DNA tests, and guess who the father is? Mr. Hasty. We're having a big discussion about it. I think Steve's been getting a job on Amazon.
Sean, that's the same picture. It's not a lookalike.
We'll start now with a couple of real ones. This one from Tom Dixon.
More like Hasty.
Yeah, there's a couple. No, that's not Hasty. We've got a couple. This was a good one. Couldn't help think it's a spit of Tony Blair.
God, horrible.
Yeah, but definitely a likeness there. This is another one from Tom. We've had that one before, I think.
It's in the eyes.
It is in the eyes. This one from Tom as well. Scott Tracy from Thunderbirds and Mark Noble. Similar uniform, mate. Similar uniform.
I think Mitch will win tonight.
Andrew had this down as me and Keith. Right said Fred.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we can. Well, I'll take that.
I'll go with that.
Too sexy, aren't we?
It's better than a dog.
You've heard of Spot the Ball. This is Spot the Nut. Albert putting Keith Patterson in there. And then he decided to say, meanwhile, down at the bowling alley, someone's mistaken Keith's head for the ball.
Thank you, Albert.
Rita, Warwick Davies and Craig Bellamy.
Yeah. Very good.
And another one from Rita. Yeah, that's pretty good as well.
Oh, right. Guy from Deliverance, aye.
And Biden, yeah, very good.
God.
Bring
the dogs on.
Andrew, a young Hasty making his Top of the Pops debut, and Mr. Penman. Very good. Yeah, Steve, you can take that one, can't you? That's a nice
I'll accept that one. Fair enough.
And from Rita again, Harry H. Corbett and Jim. Yeah. Not bad. Not bad.
Jim Deal.
Christina Applegate and War Mandy.
Really nice.
Yeah, very good, Mike. Very good.
Aye, really good.
Don't often see you in these, Mike, so thanks for that, mate. That was good. Mitch and Kevin Painter, the darts. And Michael Jones.
He doesn't look happy with that, like, does he?
That's someone who thinks he's pint, hasn't he?
He's just heard. This one again from Tom, the first Concorde pilot, and Gary McAllister.
That's good, that. It's good.
Tom.
That is good.
Always seem to get one of these.
Yeah.
Kate Mortlock and Mr. Headlock. Right. Top three. Gibbo's in at number 3. From Stephen Kennedy.
That's quality.
That's excellent, that, isn't it? Number 2. Ina Sharples and Elton John from Rocky Tune.
That's good.
Number 1.
That's fantastic.
Brody Dentist and Paul Ross from Talksport.
That's quality, that. I had to look to see which one was Mitch, honestly.
Excellent, that. Keep them coming in. Send them to us. Make sure there's a few more dogs. We're a few short this week.
No, you will.
All right, Newcastle United take on Manchester United this weekend, 4:30 on Sunday live on Sky. Andre is our Toon Sato. He's in the Toon this weekend. We're going to see him tonight, and I'm going to see him tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to catching up with him. But for now, this is what he's got to say about the game.
Hello, amigos. I'm at the familiar place. We're playing Man United on Sunday, and I'm here with a big gang of Bulgarian guys who are here for the game. There are 25 of us. What are the stats saying for Sunday? Actually, we are unbeaten against Man United in our last 2 league games. We drew last season 1-1 at St. James's Park, and we drew 0-0 at Old Trafford. However, we're winless against Man United since that game in 2019 in October, when I was lucky enough to be at the stadium when Matty Longstaff scored. Since then, we have drawn the 2 games that I mentioned, and we have lost 5, including, of course, the Carabao final painful loss last month. Now, the other stats. Marcus Rashford has scored 9 winning goals this season, the most of any player. Man United have won 14 away games at St. James's Park, their best record at an away venue this season. However, they haven't scored in their last 2 away games, and the last time that they didn't score in 3 consecutive away games was back in February 2009. At the same time, Newcastle, as I mentioned, are undefeated in the last 2 games against Man United. Last time we went 3 against them without a defeat was back in January 2012, when we famously won 3-0 with famous goals by Demba Ba and Johan Kabay and that own goal by Phil Jones. So, away the lads. See you all on Sunday, and hopefully the Bulgarians will bring some good luck to the team.
Next up, thanks Andre, Tune Tipster.
Where's he at?
Evening all, Tipster here, back after a fortnight of keeping everything crossed that Sweden didn't manage to knack Alexander Isak, or that Richard Masters didn't actually answer a question about anything ever. Thankfully, the Premier League's back, with the most important game of the weekend coming at the MBS Saudi Airlines new Megadome on Sunday, where we face our beloved Manchester, please can somebody come and buy our debt off us, Reds. I'm hoping that the best their fans can head back to London with is seeing that Middle Eastern ownership can actually be a good thing, despite crying for 4 years over ours. At least they can use the free scarves to dry their eyes with, I suppose. No matter what, there is money to be made on any result this weekend, with Newcastle coming in as favourites to win the game at 11-8. The draw is well fancied at 12-5, and Manchester's second team are 19-10. Goals are well fancied, with odds of just under evens for both teams to score and for over 2.5 goals in the game. 1-0 Newcastle, 17-2, 2-0, 12-1, and the penman is 20-1. And I think they're due another 5-0 mashing, with Sven Botman just sailing the ball over De Gea's head in injury time. If you think that's going to happen, it's 150-1. 0-0, 11-1, which shows how much goals are actually fancied in the game. Ones each, 11-2. 0-1, 9-1, and 0-2, 14-1. Isak, who in my opinion must play from now on, is a decent evens to score at any time in the game. Anthony Gordon and Alan Saint-Maximin come in at 9-2, and it's 9-1 for Joe Willock to get what he actually deserves. Marcus Rashford, of course, is favourites to score for the Manchester Reds, followed by a load of overpaid, self-indulgent, moaning gimps who I can't even be bothered talking about. I'm actually looking at Big Dan Burn at 18-1 for some value in the game. In the wider world, William Hill are offering evens with a maximum bet of £10 for over 1 goal to be scored in the City-Liverpool game tomorrow, if you fancy a free pint on Will Hill. If you follow Tipster's other service via Twitter, DM for details, you'll know that there have been some great wins lately. So my advice for those who like a bet on the football is look out for goals, especially in the Bundesliga tomorrow. Super 6 Manager of the Month for March is Rowan Bauer with a great 61 points. So well done, Rowan, and Johnny will be in touch. Jack Railton remains top of the league, keeping it there. So good luck, Jack. It's getting to the business end now, so keep it going, son. Anyway, that's it from me. Take it easy, folks, and please only bet what you can afford. Might see you soon. Tipster.
Thank you, mate. Great
Thanks,
to see
Joe.
you. And thanks to
Good to
Andre
see
as
you,
well. So 10 minutes to go, Mitch. We'll come to you last because I'm sure you'll have the dice. Steve, we'll come to you first. Your take on this game and what your prediction is, please.
Always a fixture that excites you. I think, you know, Manchester United coming to St James's Park, because they do play good football, no matter, you know, what people say. I did a little article for a new newspaper in Saudi Arabia actually this week, where I was asked some salient points, and I point out I think the similarities between where we were after the Charity Shield and the game that we played, which was obviously the famous 5-0 win, and the fact that we lost the cup final just so recently. And I think, you know, the players were smarting then, and I think the players will be smarting this time. So I think that's a positive. And if Newcastle United really do have ambitions to be playing and moving the club forward off the field as well as on the field, then this is the game, and this is the type of game that you've got to win, and you can win it convincingly if you put your heart and soul into it. And I think that we're a tight ship, and if ever there was a time when, after, you know, the way that we've got, I think we have turned the corner after our World Cup blues, which is the way it did at the start of the World Cup. We all thought, and certainly I did, I thought Newcastle United were going to benefit from the break, but we didn't actually benefit from the break. It kind of caused us to stall a little bit. But the last two results have really shown that we're hopefully back on that winning trail. And I can see us going on, especially when you put those fixtures up earlier, going on a nice run like the run we had at the start of the season. So excited. And I think that we're going to win, and I think we actually could win quite convincingly, because when Man United capitulate, they really do capitulate. And as our Manchester supporting friend said earlier, he feels as though that we might have the edge on them tomorrow on Sunday. So I'm going to go for a 3-0 win.
Brilliant. Well done,
Okay,
son.
George.
I'm very positive about this weekend. I only wish I was able to go, but I'll be watching it, and positive because of all the good things I've seen, as I've already said about last week's result at Nottingham Forest. I mean, there wasn't just the things I've talked about on the field. There was Trippier's kidding the goalkeeper about the penalty, which I thought was real kidology. That I mean, how that must have messed with the goalkeeper's head, because all week that goalkeeper would be looking at penalties, and one of the people he'd be looking at would be Trippier. And there he is walking around with a ball. So the goalkeeper thinking, it's going to be Trippier. And his heart must have sunk when Isak put the ball down and blasted it past him, because he didn't even bloody move. All positive signs that we're back to our best, that we're really giving it a go. And positive enough for me, like Steve, to think that we're round about where we should be to get something really positive against them. And I look forward to seeing their Bruno doing what he did at Liverpool when they went 5-0 down. He was begging with his hand in the air to come off to be substituted. What sort of a professional is that? Well, our Bruno is going to show you, bunny lad, this weekend. I'm convinced of it. And I'm going even more bullish than Steve and go 4-0.
Get in, George. Lad. Quality. Absolutely quality.
Go on then, Keith.
Well, something that I've noticed on this show is when you get good predictions, you get no recognition. And nobody's pointed out that when we played Wolves, a certain bloke on the panel said 2-1 Newcastle. Then we played last week against Forest, and the bloke said 2-1 Newcastle. So I'd just like to point out that I've been right 2 weeks consecutively, and I've had no recognition, so I do feel huffed for that.
Well done, Keith.
All right. Yeah.
That's the spirit.
Is it tomorrow, a 27th game or something? Is it?
Steve, if you could only motivate your panel as well as you, mate, we'd be laughing. But it's great to hear Steve and George say 3-0 and 4-0, and you know, like you're both right. This team has the capability to kill somebody off. You know, like in the days that, you know, the old Philippe Albert 5-0. For me, there's two things I hope. I hope that we don't get caught out like we did against Man United in the Cup and Man United and against we did in the league against Liverpool. And when I say that, I just think we're on top. We looked like the team who was in command, and then we sort of lost something. And then it was in both games, it was 2 goals in a crack by that snap of but both of them were balls over the top. You know, they were ball. And Neil said tonight, he says, you know, I don't see Botman making them kind of errors, but it's like if Rashford plays or not, the game shouldn't be won in that area. The game should be won in the middle, and somebody should control it, and we should be pressing them and pressing the life out of them. So they haven't got the kind of look at those 2 games. Replay the Liverpool Man United games, and we should have won them. We should have, you know. And when Liverpool couldn't beat us with 10 men, you know, they just hung on to what they had. It just sickens you. You look and you think, God, if we hadn't got beat of Liverpool at home and then got and the cup final, you'd just be absolutely bursting at the minute. So I just hope Newcastle do 2 things. I hope they recognise that when you're on top, that you know, a ball over the top is our Achilles heel. And the other thing I hope that they start a team that can press. And I don't see Wilson's fitness at the minute playing a pressing game. I think he's a good finisher, but I don't think he can play a pressing game. I don't think his legs are playing a pressing game. I also don't think Maxi has got the mindset to play a pressing game either. So I just hope we go out tomorrow with. I hope we go out starting, you know, having Wilson and Maxi on the bench. As much as I think they've been awesome, and much I love the 2 of them, we need 11 workers out there tomorrow. And if we do that, be aware of the counter attack. But even though I said all that, 2-1 again. I'm going for a hat trick of 2-1s, because if we can beat Wolves, Forest, and Man United 2-1, I'll be that with Man in St James's on Sunday. I'm buzzing, absolutely bursting the gut to get in that ground and just take it in, because you used to on the bottom are right. You bang on right. It could be a 3-0, a 4-0, or a 5-0, but I'd take 2-1 tomorrow and come home on Sunday and come home as happy as a pig in shit.
Yeah, I'm going 2-1 as well. Over to you, Mitch. Oh, you're on mute, mate.
Oh, he's hellish at throwing his voice.
We've got a point to prove, and that makes it dangerous in my book. And we're going to this game. We have nothing to lose.
No.
So let's give them our very best. And I'm damn sure we will.
What's the dice say?
Dice says, oh, blimey.
3-0.
3-0.
Go on, Mr. Hasty, lad. A bit of psychic phenomena going on there.
A bit worrying that, isn't it?
Excellent. All right, it says 3-0, and I promised I wouldn't forget. Here's Troll of the Week, Julie. Sporting Minute, thank you. The referee is quickly moving above Steve Wraith on the list of worst balls.
Oh, dear me.
Thank you, mate. Thanks very much. Mitch did send us that, actually. And I didn't need to block him. He was already blocked. So thanks for sending us that. Great show, chaps. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to George. Thanks to Keith. Thanks to Mitch. Thanks to Andre. Thanks to Joe. And thanks also to Melly for popping on and being such a good sport as usual. I am back 10 o'clock in the morning. Pre-recorded show with Ben Jacobs. And then George and I, those were the days, is on Sunday at 10 o'clock. So I've got a weekend off. Enjoy the game. See you with the fans forum on Monday. Take care, guys. Good night.
Cheers, lads. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.